A third way that we have prepared for parenting is read, read, read. Absolutely love reading, and if you don't have time to read a physical book like Cameron, he's in medical school, he listens to audio versions, like he'll listen to the audio book, and I will read the book, and then we'll talk about it, which I think has worked out really, really well for us and where we're at in our life right now. So I do have some suggestions for these because I just wanted to get to share actual resources to point y'all to. The first one is Parenting by Paul David Tripp. This is it's so good, and it's a theological overview of parenting. It's based on the foundation that we are stewards of our children. These are God's children, not our children. We are not owners. They are not ours. They are the Lord's. And what does that heart of stewardship look like? And it covers some really beautiful topics, and it does it in a really freeing way. It's not like these are strategies to handle tantrums XYZ. It's not like that. It's more of like the heart behind parenting, which I actually think is foundationally important because it informs the way you do all the other things. So they talk about calling, grace, law, inability, identity, process, authority, foolishness, character, false gods, control, rest, and mercy. It has been so good to read this. I've journaled throughout the whole thing. I think that especially the inability chapter was just so freeing, and I'm going to read a quote from it. It said, "Good parenting lives at the intersection of humble admission of personal powerlessness and a confident rest in the power and grace of God." So we can be humble and confident simultaneously as we approach this parenting journey, that we can be dependent and know that dependence and limits are human. Like, that is what it is to be human, and to be independent with no limits is to be God, and we get to be dependent on Him. It talks about how we are not left to parent ourselves. We can go to Him to be parented as we then parent our children. Anyways, beautiful book, Parenting, 14 Gospel Principles That Can Radically Change Your Family. So good. A second book that we found really helpful is this one. It's just called Parenting, Getting It Right by Andy and Sandra Stanley. We realized that there is some controversy around some of their theological views, and so we previewed this one really critically before we recommended it to anyone or asked anyone to read it with us. And this is very sound, this particular book from these authors. And it's taught us a lot and been really helpful. There are videos that come with this one, which is kind of great. So they talk about the North Star of parenting, the 4 stages of parenting, and that's really what drew me to this one, because so many parenting books I feel like are for niche sections, which is fine if that's what you need, but this one is amazing because it transitions all the way into adulthood. When someone told me that my children will spend more years as adult children outside of my home than children inside of my home, it radically changed how I wanted to approach parenting. That told me that I needed to be parenting with the end in mind. It's not just about when they're 3 and we're trying to potty train and it's crazy. I get it. That's part of it. But it's also about when they're 23 and I want to have a friendship with them. And so they talk about all the way through to the adult years and having positive adult peer-to-peer relationships with your children. And so that's why I chose this one when we were just looking through different resources, because I felt like it gave the whole lifespan in really helpful ways. One of the most powerful chapters was the chapter on words and the weight of our words. And he talks about, as a pastor, he's never had anyone say to him, "Oh, my neighbor never told me this. My coworker never told me this." But he has so many people say, "My dad never said. My mom always said." So the weight of our words as parents carries so much in our kids' lives. That's one of the most powerful chapters in this book. There's a lot in there. That marriage matters, when seconds counts, scheduling, things that are life-giving, things that take away life. Really great resource. We also bought the question guide to go along with this one, and we're doing it with friends and talking through it. So I thought that was really great. And they actually have questions that you can ask a mentor couple. And so I thought that was really great. Another book that I've absolutely loved just because of having a little boy is this one called Wild Things. It's very developmental, which I loved. Cameron loved. Like I said, he listened to the audiobook, I read the book, and then we talked about the chapters. And I really felt like it was very eye-opening about the mind of a boy, the heart of a boy, Most of it applies to girls too, if I'm being perfectly honest. I have 2 younger sisters and 3 younger brothers, and I'm like, all of these things are good for all of them. So it doesn't have to be just for boys or for boy parents or anything. Found it super, super helpful. They also have a really great section in the back called like hot topics, where they have 1-pagers on, it's not really developmental, but hot topics that are really helpful that you need to be able to have conversations with your kids about. So boys and money, dating, masturbation, substance abuse, pornography, ADD and ADHD. So all of these things, they have like the hot topics in the back, and then they have different developmental sections in the middle, and it's very, very helpful. Finally, the last one that we're tackling, because baby's coming soon, is this one, Habits of the Household. Cameron has started this one on audiobook. It was recommended by dear friends Grace and Adam to us, and it's written by the guy who wrote The Common Rule, which is also an amazing resource. And so we're really excited to dig into this one, and Cameron describes it as, this is how to family. It's not necessarily just parenting or just marriage or whatever. He says it's how to family. Upon finishing this one, Cameron said it was the most spiritually focused and spiritual development for your children. And so we're really excited to just have this as a resource, and definitely recommend it.